Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2020 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are once again coming from the Grant King Race Shops at 8155 Crawfordsville Road in Indianapolis. Today's show is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, SVRA, and McGilvery's Pub and Eatery in Speedway. If you are anxious to get your teeth checked and you just love to go see the dentist, I recommend the best. The Indy Dental Group. Indy 500 veteran Dr. Jack Miller and his wife, Dr. Liz Lewis, have a phenomenal practice. If you need an appointment, you need to see a dentist, trust me, you'll love them. They got great people. The number is 317-846-6125. You have trouble with your computer, you need some help with it, we have now the A+ affordable computer doctor. Steve Freeze is the doctor, and if necessary, he'll make house calls. Give him a call, tell him your problem, see what he thinks. Number is 317-328-0766. Have you ever wondered what it's like to drive your favorite car on your favorite track? From dirt midgets at the Chili Bowl to Formula One at Nürburgring, Indy Simulation can put you in the driver's seat of their Sim Experience full motion race simulator. Take your choice of over 160 cars and tracks in iRacing. The same simulation professional drivers use to race their real world rivals, learn new tracks, and stay sharp between races. Visit IndySim.com today to book your free demonstration ride. If you get a chance, you need to stop by the IMS Museum. The Andy Granatelli exhibit is up, and it's really quite something to see. So if you get a chance, stop by the museum and check out the Andy Granatelli exhibit. Have you ever wondered why these guys and gals love driving Indy cars? Well, you can find out for yourself. Take a ride in the Indy Racing Experience two-seater. It's the greatest race in the world, and you'll love it. You can call to get book yourself. You can call the office at 317-248-7171. Ask for Shonda. Or you can go online at indyracingexperience.com, and in the promo box, put DK1. You get a 50% discount. If it's time to renew your insurance for your home, your car, or your commercial property, do what most of us have done and call VP Insurance. Mike Pardee will help you, and you'll find you get better coverage for less money. Give him a call. Tell him what you need. Number is 317-248-0070. VP Insurance is located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. And if you have an interest in the Trans Am Series or in vintage racing, you got to check out the svra.com and subscribe to their Speed Tour magazine. It's a great first-class publication. Tells you all kinds of stuff at the various venues where they appear. So go to svra.com and subscribe to that. And while you're there, look up their schedule, see where they're going to be next. And if it's anywhere nearby, trust me, you want to go. If you have or are looking for a vintage car, the Grant King shops can help you. They've got cars, and if you have one that needs to be restored, they can do that as well. So give them a call. Tell them what you got or what you're looking for. Number is 317-820-3595. My guest today is a gentleman who has been in broadcasting of motorsports. He started at ESPN in 1982 and until 2013, and he's been online and on screen for almost any kind of motorsport you can think of. Please welcome Mr. Marty Reid. Marty, good to see you, and thanks for taking time.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, Don. Good to see you too.
What really caught my attention some time ago is you started your broadcast. You must have wanted to broadcast early on. And you started by sports broadcasting, calling the Hershey Bears into a tape recorder.
Yeah.
Get yourself tuned up. When did you get the urge to become a broadcaster?
When I realized at 150 pounds and 5'11" that I was never going to make it in the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, or the NFL. But I was a sports fan, and I really did love playing. Hockey was my first love, and I played it. And I've got all the cuts and bumps and bruises over the years to prove it. But what happened is that the Hershey Bears, or the American Hockey League, we would go down every Saturday night when I was started. Well, I think I was 15 when we first started. My next door neighbor, Ray Oberheim, was old enough to drive. And we would go to the games and sit in the very last row of the upper deck of an 8,400 seat arena when we'd do the game. He was my color man, and I would practice play-by-play and then take it home and listen to it over and over and over, pick it apart. And, am I describing the play properly? And it really helped because by the time I I graduated from high school, I was being recruited to go to schools that where they had good play-by-play programs, and I ended up going to Marietta College and moved right in as a freshman, and did football, basketball, baseball, all the sports there.
And I trust when you graduated, you didn't have to wait around or knock on a lot of doors.
Well, what happened was, while I was at college, I got a job at first at the college radio and television operation, but then my sophomore year, I got a second job at the local CBS radio affiliate, and I was doing sports for them as well. And so I had commercial experience by the time I graduated in 1975, but you got to remember, ESPN didn't start until 1979. So I'm thinking, I'm going to end up in stick and ball, because that's what was mostly on the radio and television. And there weren't any immediate openings. So I knocked on doors in Columbus, Ohio, and got hired by the NBC affiliate, which is now WCMH-TV in Columbus. And that was in the fall of 1975. And I worked there until 1987. And in 1982 was when I got my first call from ESPN to go do an NHRA drag race. They were doing their first ever NHRA event up in Brainerd, Minnesota in '82. And Steve Evans, God rest his soul and God bless him, because he had a conflict. He couldn't do the race with Dave McClellan, because those two were the bread and butter of NHRA drag racing on Diamond P Productions. And he recommended me for the job. And that's how it all started.
And if I am not mistaken, you at one time were a mechanic on drag cars.
Yeah, Jed Coughlin and I are good friends. He was best man at my wedding, Jed Coughlin Sr. His son, Jed Jr., of course, multi-time pro stock champion. And the family, everybody in that family races. And yeah, I started crewing on his car, did bottom end work, that kind of thing. And that's how I met Steve and Dave. And they saw my work when NHRA came to Columbus, Ohio, when the spring nationals were there every June. And so that's how we had hooked up, and that's how it all ended up coming about.
Well, getting hooked up with ESPN obviously was huge for you, because you ended up doing everything. You were the lead broadcaster for the Indy 500 and IndyCar Series. You did NASCAR. You've done about everything, and you even got to the point you started your own off-road organization, Champ Road Off-Road Racing, in 1997. So you've covered in fact, you were a pit reporter for Formula One, if I remember right.
Yeah, you're right. I literally had done every motorsport that ESPN ever had, from sprints and midgets all the way. One of my favorite events over the years was the Reno Air Races. We did those several times, and actually did it with Pete Conrad one year, the third man ever to walk on the moon. Yeah. And the story I always like to tell was, it was a very chilly morning, and he didn't bring enough clothes, so he borrowed one of my sweaters. And I told everybody, I said, I'm never going to wash this sweater again. The third man on the moon has worn this. And he was a delight to work with. But you're right. I mean, it was, if it had a motor and wheels or wings or motorcycles, I mean, yeah, we were fortunate. I was very fortunate to be the jack of all trades.
And one other thing that I can't help but mention is Team Scandia calls you, and you were a spotter for Vermina Velez at one time in 1997, I believe it was.
Yeah, he finished 10th that year in the race. And yeah, they needed some extra bodies, and I had done a couple of other races. I spotted for Jimmy Kite once at Colorado, and yeah, and I enjoyed doing that, because you get involved in the strategy of the event, and it was fun, and yeah, it was a great day, because I didn't have to work that particular. If you remember, that was the year the race was sort of rain delayed. Yep. And so I was back home, and that's what happened. They needed an extra spotter, and I said, "Yep, I'll do it for you."
You have retired essentially in 2013. Why? Why were you no longer? Did ESPN think it was time for you to take a rest?
You're very kind, but what you have to remember in this business, and when you get into this business, you realize that this is going to happen. There's going to come a day where you're too old, too bald, too fat, too dumb, too ugly, and too expensive, and they're going to get rid of you. And I remember talking with Dr. Jerry Punch, because ESPN unfortunately has scaled back their motorsports over the years to where it's basically, they produce no motorsports in-house, and that's another story we can talk about. But Dr. Jerry Punch and I were on the phone, and he was going, "Gosh, I can't believe all this is going on. They're letting people go and not renewing contracts." And I said, "Doc, think about this. From the time we started at ESPN, do you know of anybody in the motorsports department that got a gold watch and a going away party?" And he goes, "Oh my God, you're right." And of course, Doc's now gone, and everybody's gone, and it's a shame, but that's what happens. I mean, the young blood comes along, and the networks make changes, and I have nothing bad to say about my years at ESPN. I got to live my dream.
And in between events, you got to hone your golf game.
I don't know if hone is the correct word for it, but yeah, I still whack it around, and occasionally it goes exactly where I want it.
Oh, that's no fun. What in the world is that? Is that your parrot talking?
No, that's my dog, and he's being an ornery little cuss because he doesn't like the fact that the lawnmower is going outside, and so my wife right now is trying to calm him down. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Is there any motor sport that you like more than others? I mean, you've done NASCAR, you've done NASCAR trucks, you've done everything. And if it's got 2 or 4 wheels and a motor somewhere on it, you've broadcasted at one time or another.
Yeah, somebody a few years ago pointed out, quite a few years ago, pointed out that as of right now, I am actually the only person that has done the play-by-play for the 5 major North American motorsports, which is the 3 NASCAR series, IndyCar, and drag racing. And I have to be honest, I mean, I had great experiences with every single one. The one that was the most unique and what made it special above the others was really NHRA drag racing. And I'll tell you the reason why. In IndyCar or NASCAR, you get about 2 minutes with the driver or the crew chief, and then they're out on the track for an hour, hour and a half, whatever. In drag racing, it's just the opposite. They're on the track for about 2.5 minutes, and then they're back in the pits for an hour to 2 hours, and you can go and talk to them, and you can actually, get the story that you really can share with the viewer. And drag racing was perfect because after the burnout, you'd always have this time where they were backing the car up where you could share that story with the viewer. And the crew was amazing. Everybody was a drag racing fan on the crew. And so it was like a really close-knit family, and the drivers got it. They knew that what they did back in the pits to get their sponsors on television was more important than what they did out on the track sometimes, short of winning. And so they would bend over backwards to cooperate. Guys like Gary Scelzi, we did a segment called Scelzi Says, and he just let his sense of humor go, and it was tremendous. And so that's what made drag racing special. But they were all fun. I really did have a blast.
I'm sure that the one guy you had trouble with in NHRA, without question, had to be John Forth, trying to get him to say anything.
No, the only trouble is trying to get him to stop. I'll never forget the one time he had just been reprimanded for swearing on the air at the top end, and then he got into this thing where and I'll clean it up. He goes, "Oh shoot, I'm not supposed to say shoot. Oh shoot, I said shoot again." And he just kept piling it on worse and worse. But yeah, John's been a piece of work, and it's amazing that he's still going.
Well, I had him on Autosport one night. I asked him one question and went and sat down.
There you go.
There was the program.
There you go.
Since you're in semi-retirement, I guess it would be the best way to put it, because I'm sure you do something during the day besides take a golf club and a ball and take a whack at it every so often. But I just heard recently and saw a video where you've got a new plan in mind, a new direction you're taking yourself.
Well, actually, yeah, I'm not big on retirement. I did try it, and I sort of got bored, and not sort of, I really did get bored, and I wanted to do something where I could give back. I mean, I had this wonderful experience for all these years, 4 decades of being in television broadcasting. And I actually, I'm in my 4th year of driving a school bus for Brownsburg Community School Corporation.
Oh, geez.
And I know, and I've gotten reaction. The reactions have been across the board. Everything from "you're doing what" to "oh, that is really cool." And let me tell you, let me put it in perspective for you how rewarding this experience has been for me. Think of all the millions of people that I've had the privilege of being invited into their homes over the years. But not once was I responsible for their life. Not once was I responsible for whether they could possibly, live or die. Every day you climb behind the wheel of that school bus, over 100 kids, their parents, their brothers and sisters, their aunts and uncles, grandparents, they're counting on you to get them to and from school safely. And honest to goodness, every day that we get done, it's a rewarding experience, because another day where it was a good experience, and the kids 95% of the time are fantastic. Occasionally, yeah, you've got a few issues, but most of the time they are, and the kindergartners are so cute. I've got one. She just came up to me the other day, and she goes, "Mr. Marty," she goes, "you got a lot of gray hair." And I said, "Yes, I do." She goes, "Well, if you get many more, you're going to die, and we're going to have to get a new bus driver." And I said, "Yes, you are correct." But no, that's the one thing I've been doing. And the second thing that you were leading to is I'm actually running for political office for the first time since I was student council president in high school. And I'm running for the Hendricks County Council. And government has become so polarized that I thought, you know what? I've always said, if you had the time and if you wanted to be able to complain about government, well, you should get involved and try and do something to make it better. And that's what I'm trying to do. And, I don't know if we're going to win. I don't know if my ideas are going to fly, but we'll give it a try and see what the voters in Hendricks County think.
I've seen a video, the last one I assume it was, that I happened to see. Somebody had put it up that's on my Facebook, I think, and I saw it and I thought, well, there's two things you can figure out from this thing. First off, he's got some ideas that probably are good. And the second thing, and being in front of a camera is nothing. A lot of these guys and gals who haven't done that, haven't had that experience of doing it, you can tell the difference. So when I listened to that, I thought, the man is comfortable to talk about what he thinks needs to be done.
Well, and that's kind of you to say. And the fact of the matter is that when I looked at what was going on, I just thought that, and I don't want to turn this into a campaign speech, because I would hate to be on the other end of watching this and having somebody do it to me. I just wanted to see if I could make a difference, and if my ideas are worth trying, and if we can have that kind of success and make things better for the county and the taxpayer. Because the neat part about it is, really, county office has nothing to do with national politics. It has nothing to do with state politics. This job is one main purpose, and that's to appropriate county tax funds to services for county citizens. That's it. So, it's not really that political football that we see getting tossed back and forth right now.
Well, that's good. And I think knowing you, I mean, we don't hang out and have beer every other day, but I've known you for probably 30 years and listened to you. And I'm one of these guys, what I do is I go around and I listen. I hear you talking this to a crew. I'll just kind of ease up so I can eavesdrop. And I've always been impressed with the questions you've asked and what you brought to the table when you broadcasted. So I got to think, if you need any help, now I'm from Chicago, and of course you know what happens in Chicago. I can get you 10,000 votes for people that don't even exist.
Vote early, vote often.
Yeah. But I wish you well, and I think that's kind of interesting that you have the time and have paid attention enough to think, well, maybe I can help and give it a shot. What have you got to lose other than a few dollars for signs and promo and so forth?
I've actually had some donations, and that's been kind of nice. I appreciate it, and yeah, no, you're right. I mean, again, I'm certainly not counting on definitely winning. I hope I do, but you know, the voter, that's the one great thing about our country. This is the one time where each of us has a voice, and people sometimes think that they don't, you know, their vote doesn't count. Well, you know, if everybody did vote, boy, then votes really do count. And so if you stay home, yeah, you're actually hurting the process, because there's a lot of countries that don't have that privilege of a fair election where they get to mark their ballots and have it counted.
All right. Do you still follow racing closely? All of it? You know, the ones you're involved in and so forth you watch?
Not as closely as obviously when you know I was involved, because you know, literally when we were doing 1 week I'd be doing sprints and midgets, and the next week I'd be doing our off-road series, and the week after that I'd be doing, you know, drag racing, and you know, so you had to stay up on everything. But yeah, I still follow. I mean, Harvick's looking really strong, you know, in NASCAR right now. I'm not sure, you know, there's anybody that can really beat him, unless, you know, misfortune always plays a part in some of these things, but he's looking really good. Dixon's been amazing. I hope people realize now, instead of waiting 10 or 15 or 20 years down the road, to realize just how great a driver this guy is. I mean, I've seen him nurse cars that you know shouldn't have even made it to the finish line. He is the best at making fuel, and you can say whatever you want about fuel economy racing, but if I had one driver that I needed to get that extra lap or two to possibly win a race, he's my guy. I mean, I've seen him do things, and he's always level. I mean, I've never seen him get up here, and I've never seen him get down here.
Well, I interviewed him when he first came to IndyCar. In fact, I think he was a Tri-West, if I remember, but I'm not sure. It could have been he started with Ganassi. And to get an answer out of him was very difficult. Today, completely different. He's a completely different guy. And of course, I keep reminding him that Emma had something to do with that. But there's no question that he has, plus he's got the team behind him. He's got one of the best strategists in the business, Mike Hull, overseeing everything that goes on there. He's his strategist. So
yep.
He is quite amazing, but the team he has behind him gives him what he needs to win, and that's what he does.
Well, you know, you mentioned the fact that it was difficult getting him to talk early in his career. I look at interviewing for anybody the same as I look at their progression in whatever sport they're attending or trying to accomplish. You know, you just don't, very few, let's put it that way, are natural in front of a microphone and speaking. Ivan Stewart, the legendary off-road racer, he went to the Dale Carnegie course 3 times because he was petrified. He would win a race, drive to his hauler and load it and try and leave before the media could get there in the earliest days. And look at him now. I mean, he was one of my my color commentators on my off-road series, and he's great at it. And that's what happens to a lot of these guys. They develop their speaking ability just the same as they develop their driving talent.
How's your former off-road series? Is it still going full back?
No. Unfortunately, the man who bought it from me was a very wealthy land developer out in California. His sons were in the sport. And he, as part of the deal, when I sold it to him, he had 30 hours of consulting. He used 30 minutes. And my one message to him, and he didn't buy into it. He wanted to be the next NASCAR. And I said, you can be the NASCAR of off-road racing, but if you think you're going to replace, you know, that, you're kidding yourself. And when the recession hit, he had been in business after buying it from us about 3 years. and he shut it down. He owed NBC at the time something like $6.5 million. It was really a shame. It was really a shame because when we sold both my companies, both were debt free for the last 4 years that I owned them, because I wasn't keen on going into super big debt for the very reason that ended up putting him under as far as the business. You have to carve your niche, know your audience, cater to that audience. And this is where NASCAR has been criticized over the decades. When they left the deep South and tried to expand, and now with all the rule changes and everything that's been going on over time, you look at the television ratings that, they've gone down a lot since the heyday.
Yeah, well, I stumbled into NASCAR early on when I had a television show, and I'm sure I just forgot his name. There was he was a marketing director for R.J. Reynolds, and he's the one who brought Winston to the series. I just forgot his name, but he took care of me. I was the only Yankee there, and I went to Wilkesboro and these other places, and you could have shot a gun and not hit anybody. There was nobody there, but boy, it did build over the years. Yeah. But now all of a sudden they've hit a stumbling block.
And there's a lot of reasons for it. It's not just that one particular. You got to remember, look at television. When you and I were kids, there was 3 networks.
Yeah,
that was it. And then cable comes along, and now you've got a choice of 600 channels and all these streaming services, and so the audience is so fragmented. Yeah. It's hard to really get a mass of people to focus on your product, especially when in IndyCar and NASCAR and drag race, you have one event going on. See, the NFL is so blessed because they can regionalize all those television games. And so we, as living in Indianapolis and being Colts fans, we get to watch our team. And we don't have to, if we don't want to, watch any other game.
Right.
And that's really, that's really crucial. But if you've only got that one event per weekend, and it's over in, the southeastern corner of the country, and there's a lot of other stuff going on out west, well, maybe those fans will say, well, I'll catch up to it next week when it's out here. And, there's a myriad of issues that these sports teams and franchises and leagues have to deal with.
Well, the good part about it is, with nobody in the stands to cut out people, the Major League Baseball and the NBA are not doing terribly well, but IndyCar their ratings seem to be quite good, and they seem to be climbing a bit. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I want to see all motorsports thrive, and there's challenges down the road. I mean, we've talked about it before. We have a generation of kids that they aren't into cars like you and I were when we were 16,
right.
Because you and I could open the hood and we could work on our car. Well, now you open the hood and there's a computer unit and an engine that's, you can't even find the spark plugs in it. So, for a kid today, you'd have to take a computer course and go to a mechanic school just to be able to work on your own car. And so they've lost interest, and they're into their video games. And I mean, look at this esports. That's taking off, where, you can race by sitting in your chair, and you race your video game. So,
yeah, well, it's an advancing world, unfortunately, because I am behind. We're doing this, and as I've said numerous times, when things shut down and we were looking for a way to do this, somebody said, why don't you do Zoom? And I'm thinking of the kid that did the Mazda commercial in the background, goes, Zoom, Zoom. What in the world is that? Now we've been doing it for about 4 months, and it seems to work well.
Yeah,
it works to the point where I can get people I normally can't get because they're not available on Tuesday night, like yourself, and I can have you on, and we put it up on the internet and do well with it.
Yeah, no, nothing stays the same, and the sad part is, as you get older, I look back on my parents and how they lamented how, yes, they liked some of the things that progress brought, but there were other things that they don't. For example, I think there are elements of the internet that are just fantastic. My wife and I have hooked up with a friend that we hadn't seen in over 2 decades. He lives with his family over in London, England. And so we can communicate and we can catch up. What I hate about the internet is what has come about in all these disinformation campaigns, whether it be political or the virus or anything, where people just put out all this fake, you know what, and it's just polluting the conversation, and it's driving a bigger wedge between all of us. And so that, I would ask your viewers on Zoom here to take a look at Netflix's The Social Dilemma. It is a documentary that has been put together, and it's talking to all these people that help develop all these platforms like Google and Facebook and Twitter, and how they now realize they've created a monster. And they talk about the issues and how deep-seated some of this stuff goes, and that we've got to get some control over it, or this is just going to keep exponentially expanding.
Yeah, you're right. And there's so much hooey that puts out, somebody puts something, has an idea, and they put it out and everybody takes it for gospel. Well, it's gotten carried away, and it's hurt some people, and sorry to see that, but I'm sure you've got to get yourself, do some sit-ups and push-ups, get ready to go back and pick the kids up and have lunch with your lovely bride, Carla. I appreciate your time, Marty. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I certainly wish you very well in your effort to become a member of the Hendricks County Council.
Well, the only plug I'll give is if anybody's interested, just to find out what my positions are, whether you live in Hendricks County or not, it's reidforcountycouncil.com. And any feedback is more than welcome.
Well, I'll go back and look again, and I'll send you some.
just make sure it's not no naughty words, please.
No. I appreciate your time, and I've always enjoyed listening to you broadcasting. I'm kind of sorry you don't hear you anymore, but as you said, that's progress. The new ones come in and pick up the pieces, hopefully, and make it good. So thanks for your time.
There's some really good talent out there right now.
There is.
Thanks, Don. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for being there. My guest has been Marty Reid, former broadcaster with ESPN from 1982 to 2013. We will be back again shortly with another guest upcoming, so keep in touch. In the meantime, until the next time, this is Don Kay saying thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Goodbye.